let me ask you this. One of the points that Bill made that I thought was probably the most important point is that a $20 light bulb can actually cost less than a $1.48 light bulb.
And that was last year's price.
Could you go over that again? Because I think viewers might have missed that. That's a pretty important topic.
Yeah, so the return on investment, or the total cost of ownership of a light bulb, is the cost of purchasing that bulb plus the cost to use it. So let's say you run a light bulb 3 hours a day. That's not much. This would be a home use. You're talking about 1,000 hours of use a year, approximately. So if for each watt of power that thing uses, you're talking about a kilowatt, 1,000 hours, 1,000 watts. So that's 1 kilowatt hour.
Right.
10 cents, okay, per watt. So your 60 watt bulb, 60 cents, right? Your 100 watt bulb, $1, right? So you take a 100 watt bulb, or 250s or whatever, you're talking about $1 a year. Not a lot of money. But if you add up all the light bulbs in your house, 50, 60 light bulbs, you're talking about some amount of money. Now, you take your light bulb that's an LED bulb, and instead of running 60 watts, it's running 6 or 8 watts.
So it's using a lot less power.
Yeah, so instead of 60 cents a year, it's 8 cents a year.
And then it lasts a lot longer, doesn't it?
And it lasts long. Now, if you use it more than 3 hours a day, so that's why commercial and street lighting are going to LEDs much quicker. If you have to run 12 hours every night, well, then the payoff's going to be much quicker, because you'll get to 3,000 to 4,000 hours in a year. But if it's a home use, this lamp that's never turned on, don't bother.
Okay. Well, listen.
By the way, you don't have to pay $20 anymore.
They're a lot cheaper. So the difference is they're even more
Heights
costly.
is law.
Okay.
The price falls in half every 2 years.
Keep that thought. Let's take a break, and we'll be back to Green Time in just a minute. Welcome back to Green Time. I'm host Don Fitz, and I was just talking about lighting with Gavin Perry with Show Me Solar. Gavin, you're throwing a lot of light on the subject. Okay, now I want to digress for a little bit and ask sort of the big picture. There's so much emphasis now on energy efficiency with light bulbs and everything else. We could easily get the impression that energy efficiency solves the problem. But of course, every time there's energy efficiency, people just tend to use a lot more of that energy.
There is that problem, yes.
As cars become more efficient, then people drive more miles, more people buy cars, and then people buy SUVs instead of sedans because everything's more efficient. And so actually the amount of CO2 emissions from cars has gone up more the more efficient they are. And we find the same thing with heating for home. Homes have become much more efficient, but what happens when homes are more energy efficient? People buy bigger homes. And so now we have 3 times as many square feet per person.
With lighting too, if you don't bother to turn it off because it's so cheap.
Well, if every neighborhood decides, well, we're going to put street lights, not 3 lights per street, but we're going to put a light every 5 feet. And the cities decide we're going to light the entire downtown area, and we have just enormous lights everywhere, and people buy more and more lights and say, well, it's not a problem to turn, why do we need to turn our lights off when we leave the house? They're so efficient. What's the result going to be as far as?
You end up using as much power. You end up looking like China, where they've got LED lights everywhere, and they're all flashing colors.
They're flashing all the time. And so the big thing to keep in mind is that we need to have a policy of energy conservation. And it's only when we have energy conservation that efficiency can really help.
Well, we need energy not to be so cheap. In Missouri, we have some of the cheapest energy in the country, mostly because almost all coal-based.
Right.
85% coal, and that's the dirtiest energy as far as air pollution.
And that gets into the question of health. One of the interesting things that I thought was on Bill Kreckler's movie was that burning in order to get light is particularly unhealthy. And you had mentioned earlier that there's health effects for the light spectrum. What in the world does that mean?
Oh, that's something that's sort of at the bleeding edge of science, I should say. Circadian rhythm is something that's studied, your daily cycle of light and dark and how active you are. And it turns out that there are receptors in the eye that are sensitive to blue light that set your biological clock. And so when it's getting close to time to go to sleep, you should not be exposed to blue light. Now, normally the sun sets and it goes red and then it's out, and maybe you have a little fire, and that's very red light. you're fine. But modern person, what are we doing? Sitting there looking at a television set which is enormously high color temperature, or much more blue light.
Oh, so if you're
So
trying
it's like
to
the worst thing you can do. Don't ever watch TV at night. Yeah, right. Like anybody would.
Well, is it okay to turn the TV off before you go to sleep?
Oh yeah, you turn the TV off like at least 2 hours before you go to sleep.
Really? Because some people like to watch TV
And fall
fall asleep with the TV still going.
That's right. Yeah.
And I know
I
because
think it can get better with modern LCD TVs because they don't have to be quite such bright blue light. But if you think about when you're walking your dog, you're outside and you look into, you see that flickering blue light in everybody's window, right? Because you don't notice it as being blue when you're watching TV, but it is extremely blue, and that's just not good for your health.
Okay. Well, let me ask you. One of the slides that you had prepared was on lamp efficiency over the years. Now, what is
for the LED efficiency, right?
Right, for the LED efficiency. What does that show? What
That's a fun graph because it was the black and white part is from 2005, the Department of Energy, and they were projecting how they expected LEDs to perform. Great acceleration, and then they would level off at some rate. And there's two curves. One is the laboratory, what's the best we can do, and the other curve is under that is what's in the market.
Right.
And I've drawn in red and green two more curves that take off. So they were wrong about where it would level off and how quickly it would reach it. So between 2005, when they made the projection, 2007, Cree came out with this different technology and a lot of advances that were pretty disruptive. And so instead of doubling the light output per watt every 2 years, they were doing it in 1.
Wow. Okay. So things have become more
so it just
efficient,
for a couple of years there, it just shot way up, and now it's starting to level off.
Now it's going to level off.
But we're over the maximum they thought we'd ever hit. In the lab was 200 lumens per watt, and that's already available commercially.
So we're doing now. Is this the same sort of concept that you were talking about, that you showed in your graph on LED efficiency?
Yeah. This is what we're talking about. The lumens per watt. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you get more lumens, more light, then you need less watts, and so.
Okay. Now, what about LED replacement lamps? You have a photo of that, of LED replacement lamps.
Yeah. So there's lots of different kinds of light bulbs. Actually. Light bulbs, the lamps is the proper term. A bulb is something you plant in the ground and flowers come out.
Okay, so...
But we all call them bulbs, so lamps, bulbs. So the standard light bulb is called the A bulb in Edison.
Is that the incandescent that we all grew up with, that we've all been told to stop using that?
Which I forgot to bring one of. So
but we know what it looks like.
You know what those look like. And then you have things called MR, meaning mirror reflective, and GU, which I don't even know what it stands for, but it's a kind of pin-based bulbs. Candelabra, the ones you put in your little chandeliers with the smaller base. Par lamps, which are the parabolic reflectors. And so there's lots of different kinds of lamps. I actually brought a few lamps with me here. So this would be a small par lamp, and they're measured diameter, so like a part.
And that's a floodlight.
And that's it could be a flood or a spot.
And if you have an outdoor safety light, that's probably
you probably
what you
have one,
except a much bigger
one
version.
of the bigger ones. You probably have one more this size.
Right. Okay. So we.
Okay. So this one's an incandescent.
Okay.
So that's 60 watts of incandescent
So
light.
all those outdoor safety lights we have
they're
now
often 100 watts.
Okay, they're still the inefficient
150,
variety because they're still incandescent.
Right, 100, 150, whatever. Now here I've got the compact fluorescent. Now this one's pretty blue.
That's the curly Q.
This is your curly Q.
The one that we were told not to worry even if it has mercury in it, because it's just a little bit of mercury.
Well, because the amount of mercury in it is so small that the amount of energy it saves, that coal that you didn't burn, would have put more mercury into the air than is in there. So even using them, and even if you broke it on your floor, it's still going to give you less mercury in the air than this one, because of it burning so much coal, which puts much more mercury in the air.
Okay, but
you don't want to have these in your house.
Right. Okay. If we could avoid using mercury altogether, we would like to.
It's very nice to avoid using the mercury altogether.
Is that possible?
Yeah. So over here I've got two LEDs. Now people think, LED lights are not very bright. They're horrible blue light. So this one's about 6 or 7 years old, and it's just the standard little indicator LEDs. Lots of them all stuck on the face of it, and I mean, honestly, it just looks like crap. What can I say? If this was where the LEDs were today, I wouldn't be here. You know, there's
Okay.
nothing to say about that.
Okay.
This one over here looks like an A bulb.
Okay, we just got a minute left, so we got.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
And there you go. So there's
Okay.
an LED that's
So,
nice
okay,
and
so,
bright.
so the important thing is that this LED, which is becoming commercially viable,
Less than $10 now.
it may cost more, but it saves you more in the long run. It does not have mercury. It does not burn the same amount of coal. It's better for your eyes because it doesn't have the same sort of glare there.
And you can control the color temperature. You can have it warm, cool, whatever color you want. You just look at it when you're buying it. And I wish we could have more time to talk about that. Maybe we'll do another show.
We could certainly do another show because this has so much information. Gavin Perry, I want to thank you very much for coming and sharing your expertise with us. I want to thank all the viewers for watching this episode of Green Time, and I want to ask you, be sure to tune in the next time Green Time is on the air.